We've seen a little bit of news this fine morning. So we had some manufacturing numbers out of the UK, a little bit better than expected. A little bit of movement on pound pairs, but not really too much. Definitely nothing in the major positive direction. Then we had Canadian employment numbers. Chris and I were kind of joking about this morning about 1 bazillion jobs created. Previous number, pretty good, 53,000. Forecast, a loss of 10,000 is what they were looking for. And then the number, 48,000. So, that's kind of a... I'm trying to think of, I think Australia does a pretty interesting job at that as well, where they'll have a forecast of, 5,000 and then the number is like 70,000. And it's just so far off of expectations. So anyway, a little bit of movement on Canadian pairs. We'll look at those for sure. Employment numbers did, or unemployment rate did improve a little bit as well, about 0.1%, so beat expectations. So overall, pretty good on Canadian numbers. Chris, we may need you to walk down the street and see what the University of Michigan consumer sentiment is supposed to be all about. Maybe they can give you a little heads up on that. That's coming up in just about 1 hour. So must be maybe like 10 million Americans moved to Canada and got jobs. So something must have happened. Yeah, I sent you a facsimile. Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, guys, we had some good movements here. UK notes played out nicely. Good movements here, and still waiting for the movement to play out here. So let's have a little quick peek at the dollar index. I'm liking the dollar index. I need to get like a pre-drawn head and shoulders pattern so I can put it on my charts, but this is looking like a pretty good head and shoulders pattern right here. This is making a nice little move. We've broken this trend line that's been tested at least multiple times, made a nice little move there. We do definitely have this level to get above. That little high right there, that's going to be kind of the nail in the coffin. So we want to make sure we can kind of clear that spot out. We've hit the monthly pivot. That's been good, big, important, all of that. Hit the monthly pivot, and we've got this kind of movement here to look for and see if that can play out. But I think we're going to see some good activity. I feel like the dollar might be ready to take off again. So. So probably going to be a little bit of junk right here. Probably going to be a little bit of bouncing at the monthly pivot. A little struggle. Just a few pips away is that high. But if we can clear those areas, we should see a nice little continuation on this dollar index. And so far, it's made its way nicely through this pattern here. So hopefully it can continue and just keep pushing higher, and we can see some nice trend on some of these dollar pairs. So that is, the dollar Swiss actually. So we've seen these pairs kind of moving fairly well. The dollar index is moving. Dollar Swiss has pushed along nicely. I put my, let me see if I got kicked out. I'm trying to think about this now. I put my profit target somewhere on the dollar Swiss, and it looks like I am not out yet. Where is my profit target? 10045. Trying to think why I did that. Oh, I think I was going for weekly pivot. I was going right for weekly pivot here. So it's just about there. I'm just about to be kicked out of this thing in another 5 pips or so. 4 or 5 pips. So I'm targeting that weekly pivot. I just kind of let mine run yesterday. I said, you know what, forget you. We've done a good job making higher lows, and I'm shooting for that weekly pivot. So it's just about there. Hit the monthly, and it's creeping on into that weekly. So dollar index looks good to kind of help this movement continue on. This is kind of all just running along and doing a pretty nice job. I'm pretty So you'll notice in the UK notes, I didn't put anything on dollar Swiss or euro dollar, which I always like to do as often as possible. I really like trading both of those pairs, euro dollar as well, and I just, the euro dollar did a good job. It's done a good job breaking and so on, and now it's right back down to these lows. It got a little yucky. It kind of looked like it was creating a bit of a like really short-term, some sort of reversal activity here, and I thought, I'm just going to hold off on it. So I'm glad that it's broken those lows. I'm glad that those levels are kind of getting out of the way. I'm not really sad at all about missing that move. I mean, I always want to get any kind of trade possible, but I'm not broken up about it because I feel like we have better confirmation coming now. So we have this big level right here. This is a big deal, and this is going to give us a pretty clean opportunity to trade a break. And so hopefully we can get, some sort of one of two things, some sort of, consolidation around here and then a break like that, or we can get ourselves a little bit of, something like that, and then that kind of activity. So hopefully it's going to be one of them. We don't really have anything missed up above except for this guy right here, and I don't care a ton about one daily pivot on a pair like the euro dollar, but it wouldn't be the worst thing to, see that get hit and then be able to really start shorting the heck out of this. So there's a lot of possibilities here. I'm just going to watch it. One thing's for sure is I'm doing nothing right this moment. So if it breaks first, then let's look for a retest because this is a pretty significant level. This is, we're getting down into the 10600, and that's been, 10600 has been pretty important. So we're getting down there. We'll see how this plays out, what it does, and so on. So liking euro dollar in this kind of a scenario, and it's done a good job holding outside of this. This was a UK note, by the way, to kind of trade this break, and it did give us that break. But the continuation has happened, and it's moved along pretty nicely. So we'll see how that euro dollar plays out. But I think those are all very good scenarios. Speaking of euro anything. We have Euro Aussie, and hopefully you guys are able to make some bucks on this thing. I just wanted one of two things to happen. A little break, little retest, trendline activity, take out that monthly pivot, or excuse me, weekly pivot, or sell the break of 139.28. Just sell the heck out of that break. And what we ended up with is a pretty good version of that. So that low gave out. I mentioned in the notes looking for 25 to 40 pips on the downside movement. 25 to 40 pips. So what we had here is a nice little break of this 129. There we go. 139.28. It's currently about 52 pips below that low with very, very little retracement, which was awesome. It broke, pulled back just a little bit, hopped around, and it's just well on its way. So I put a pending order on, on that breakout, and I'm just going to let this run. I'm going to see how far it goes. It's I was going to put a profit target on here, and I just didn't last night. I think I was very tired, and I kind of forgot. So that's okay. It worked out. So I'm just going to kind of let that run and see how that plays out. So hopefully you guys are able to get a little bit of Euro Aussie business. That was a nice little move, and it looks like it's going to continue on trucking. So I'm going to let it go for a while, see where it goes. I don't really know if there's any major level that I think is super exciting that's nearby. I mean, it seems like we have stuff that's another 200 pips away. We've got to go to the weekly chart to even see that. But I mean, here's kind of the next. Well, I guess not. Yeah, almost 200 pips away. We start looking at at this big double bottom zone, support zone, right around 13700. So. Maybe I'll hang on to it until 13700 and just kind of see where it goes. I don't really see anything super significant between current price and that next area. So that could be our spot to look for, 13700, 137.25. right around there. So may just hold on to it until then, see if we can get a big, a big bottoming out at that area, and then start looking for, maybe some opportunities to buy those dips or whatever may happen. So for the moment, holding Euro Aussie short. Yeah, okay, so that's true. We'll have some nice weekly pivots coming up as well. We'll definitely have a second weekly pivot, and we'll probably have a second daily pivot here as well. So we'll have 2 daily pivots, 2 weekly pivots. We'll see how it plays out. All right, nice little move on Euro Aussie. Hopefully you guys got into that, made some bucks. Liking that trade. That's a goodie. Here's one other thing to look at. Oil is just going nuts. Canadian employment numbers were good. The CAD has rallied. Oil's making a pretty good comeback here since 2 days ago. So it's up a pretty good chunk, $51 to $54. Pretty nice. And I've been looking at all this, and that's why I thought the New Zealand CAD is one of my favorite setups right now, because we have bad, or I guess more dovish New Zealand news from the central bank, and the Canadian dollar seems to be kind of hanging in there pretty well. So that's why we had the New Zealand CAD sell trade here. Now, 2 things to kind of talk about. Number 1, be ready to trade the trend line break. Definitely wanted to see that daily pivot get hit if possible, but I would trade the break either way. So that's what I did, and that's what I recommended. It made a stab at that daily pivot. So now, same thing. We're getting to we'll be to 3 missed daily pivots here, which is totally great. And that's also why I was only looking for. Where are we at here? There we are. This is why I was only looking for the move into this missed daily pivot, 93.90, because we're getting pretty overextended. This thing has made a pretty big run, this New Zealand CAD, and it's done a nice job hitting this daily pivot right here. We've got another daily pivot down here around 93.47, and that could be a good little spot. And I don't know if we have anything else too much, nearby as far as daily, weekly, monthly pivots go. So did a really nice job. It got a little, squirrely in there for a moment. We started to break and kind of pushed around, but the news definitely made it move fairly well. Pulled back, only about 15 or so pips, and then we saw a nice 50 pip movement there. So hopefully you guys made some money on that one. That was a nice little trade. Worked out very well, and I definitely like the the New Zealand CAD combo. Some good strength on the Canadian dollar. New Zealand dollar weak, and so it goes. It'll be interesting to kind of see how some of this plays out, because we have some pretty decent, this is a pretty severe bear flag kind of play out here, and so maybe it needs to, maybe we'll see some of this run, and maybe we'll see it reverse and come up and hit a third pivot, which it's going to leave. But our price projection here is pretty intense. It puts us back towards these lows of 92.40.50 area, which is back right around all of this consolidation. So after a little pivot alignment, I will continue planning, trying to sell this thing and take it lower. So I'm in it now. I'm going to look for possibly closing this at the pivot, or see how it goes throughout the day, and then close it towards the end of the day. But this was the recommended profit target. So if you got into the trade, you got out at 93.90, all very good, all very good. So that worked out nicely. A nice little 50 pip run there. We never hate that. So very nice move on Euro Aussie, very nice move on New Zealand CAD, and then of course we have the New Zealand dollar that is kind of struggling to move against the US dollar, and I still like this. I think this is going to be just a fine trade. Again, getting 2 pivots lined up there. So one of 2 things could definitely happen. Number 1, we get that bounce up into that daily pivot, and then this continues down unimpeded, which would be great. But likewise, maybe it doesn't, and maybe we see that break, and there's this weekly. We have these 2 weekly pivots, right? And the first one is not super far away. So from breaks of lows here, it gives us 20 pips. The next one's pretty big, 100 pips away. So I'm going to watch this, and I will happily trade a break of this low and at least grab 20 pips down to this next weekly pivot. Whether this is going to make a massive run of of 100 pips while it's leaving all these pivots is a little debatable. So our safe bet might be to just grab some quick pips at the break of the low and trade that down to that first weekly pivot. So I like that. But I also like getting down, to those bigger levels, and I like being short New Zealand dollar. But as we know, with kind of these pivots lining up the way that they are, we may not get that huge of a run with 3 daily pivots. But one thing that I have seen very, frequently, and what we've seen, in a major way, is when the New Zealand dollar starts to move, it's hard to slow it down. So we could see some nice continuations there. So I'll be ready to trade the New Zealand dollar this morning, today, if it plays out. I'm holding Euro Aussie for a bit longer still, while that hopefully continues down, and holding New Zealand CAD for a bit as well to see if that can continue lower. And let's see, am I out of dollar Swiss yet? Sure the heck am. So dollar Swiss was a nice little run. Took out that weekly pivot out with some good profits. Hopefully you guys made it to at least that monthly pivot there from our trade yesterday. But very nice move on dollar Swiss. So questions, comments, what do we have? All right. Okay, guys, we've covered some good stuff. We've, the notes strike again, so nice little movements there, and hopefully another trade coming up with that New Zealand dollar. I would love that. All right, that's all I got for the moment. I'll be honest, I'm super ready to go back to bed in like 10 more minutes, but I will keep my eyes open. Chris has got some good stuff to cover for us. Friday has felt like a Friday, like it feels like Monday was about 2 years ago. So this week has just been cruising along, but we've had some nice trades and some nice pips in the process. How has, I know you do, Kettle, I know you love that New Zealand dollar, and it's a good New Zealand dollar trade. It's looking really good if we can, start to see some breaks and get some movements there. How'd you guys do? How did everyone do this week with your trades? I know some people got derailed because of FXCM's dirty business, and trades and accounts and so on had to be closed and moved and all of that. But how was your guys' week? How did I know those that were holding the Aussie New Zealand with Chris have done very nicely, and that's awesome. That's a great little trade that's playing out. How about the rest of everything? How have you guys done? How has the week treated you? Has anybody taken a single trade this week at all? Oh, okay, there we go. There's Paul. All right, good, Paul. Decent week. Made some pips. Anybody else? Anyone else taking a single trade this week? Paul, looks like it's you and I. I know Chris has taken some trades, so 3 of us. Oh, there we go. Pretty good. All right. Yeah, that New Zealand, Aussie New Zealand definitely put some positive spin on some things, so that was great. Good to see that playing out after a couple of months of patience and letting the market play out. It's a good lesson, a good reminder of trades, kind of working through trades and working through everything. So cattle up $250, but have been paralyzed too many times. Well, that happens. But $250, that's not bad. That's a decent, it's a couple of bucks. Definitely not a bad little run. Okay, Craig's made a little bit since Wednesday afternoon. That's good. Ron took some profits on the Oanda platform, closed out all positions on FXCM losses. Oh, what a bummer. Yeah, the FXCM thing really kind of screwed everybody up. So that is no bueno. Aubrey, excellent. Shorted pound. Well, you are speaking the lingo. I love it. Shorted pound New Zealand for a few pips yesterday. Pound New Zealand was a beautiful trade, by the way, yesterday. That was just perfect. That pound New Zealand gave, you know, a nice little setup. I totally missed it because I was greedy, and I wanted to get a double top there, and I was dumb and missed it, and it was just ridiculous because that was a beautiful trade, and good work on that one, Aubrey, because pound, there we go, pound New Zealand just, man, that little 5-minute setup that we had was so perfect, and what I was waiting for over here, you know, is we had this very nice, fantastically high bar count. I was looking at this and I thought we got to get a double top here. We got to get one more pullback right here, and I just didn't do anything with it. And you know, from there it ran down a nice little chunk. But even from, you know, even from this area, the 74 kind of 35, 40, it ran down, and you know, and it was just great. So I'm glad you got into that, Aubrey. That was a great little trade. I know some others. Did anyone else get into the pound New Zealand? Anyone get a little bit of pound New Zealand on that 5-minute? It was really just totally perfect. I know Chris got into a couple of pips on that one as well. Good. Pound New Zealand is really, really good. I made short pound New Zealand, which is a little bit higher. Okay, yeah, I think we're going to, Marcia grabbed a few on a 5-minute long New Zealand CAD. Good work, Marcia. Very good work on that. I love to see some stuff coming into play there. So, yeah, there's a good-looking level right there. I mean, what a perfect double top that was on pound New Zealand, by the way. I mean, 74, you know, 75 area was just to the pip, hit, and just coming on down. So, great work, guys. Very, very good. Very good. Yeah, that's, can't figure out how to see pips on Oanda reports. Yeah, I'm sure anyone with Oanda can probably share a screenshot and show those details. There we go. Right click, run the detailed report. Yeah, Oanda's a little bit different. They have different, they kind of do that unit thing, right? And they do a few little different details. Okay, any questions, guys? Questions, comments? We'll help you figure out that Oanda situation, Craig, so we'll get you there. But sounds like a good week for everybody. Sounds like a good week. Canadian Oanda, I love them. I thought Oanda was actually Swiss. I thought they were from Switzerland, and I know they're based in. They have a big Canadian operation that runs through the U.S., but same thing, right? Oh, that's great. But no, it doesn't sound very American at all. No problem. No problemo. That's great. All right. Okay, Chris, you wanna any trades you wanna bring up?
Unmuted.
Chime in on here?
Yeah, let's chat. So I took profit on I updated the trade notes. I'll grab the screen here for a second, Jared. Updated the trade notes on, let's go to trade alerts, active positions. So feel free to protect/close. Aussie New Zealand is currently sitting at 106.50. That's the yearly pivot. That was my minimum target. I stayed up with this pair last night, ended up trapping most of my profits right around 106. My stop loss I moved to 106.37, and my profit target I put at 106.49. There was a little undulation last night, so I got knocked out at 37. But it's only 13 pips higher, and so I just look, I honestly didn't want to take any profit. We discussed yesterday trying to stay in this thing through 107.50, but now we're getting 3 pivots lining up. There's going to be probably a 15 to 20 pip pullback, I'd say, at the minimum. So I just went ahead and I was up a few $1,000s, and I thought it was worth protecting as opposed to letting that P&L fluctuate. So I'll happily rebuild the Aussie New Zealand and look to get back in with the longer term targets and start this whole thing over. But I was in for over 2 standard lots. As we started to run up higher around that 105, 80, 105.90, I threw in a couple more positions at the break of 106. And just took it up for the extra 30 to 40 pips. So anyway, it was good. It's about flipping time that we had a cooperative run, and it was nice to get all of this confirmation this week. So again, we're kind of back that the trade has come back alive, and we've got bigger targets above 107.50 is that massive neckline. If we break higher, I mean, we can just keep our eye on the longer term picture here for Aussie New Zealand. But I thought it was important to, at least protect this. So from this area where we started building entries, I mean, between 104 and 105, I know that FXCM really screwed up everybody that had to deal with that, closing and transitioning, and the timing's terrible for that. And I really feel bad for everyone. But, I had the same thing happen to me, not with my account because I was holding 15 positions, but I had other accounts that were forced to close positions as well because I was in the process of transitioning people over to Oanda. So that did the same thing. I had FXCM liquidate positions that were positive. I had others that were liquidated when they were negative. And, I've stayed in the trade since November. I mean, I've seen all these positions just sit and sit and sit since November. And then finally today was the first time I actually took action on it. So anyway, hopefully, if it was a bad result or a negative result, that's something that clearly, nobody could control. I mean, that's just bad form by FXCM, but you get transitioned to a different broker, and we just keep going. So anywho, I'm happy that it's all said and done and over with. The CAD Swiss is finally moving higher today, which is great to see. So these trades are now going fairly well. I like the pivot alignments that we're getting on these pairs. So I actually took a trade at 106.50 on the Aussie New Zealand. I'm in a trade right now, 106.50. Sold it at the yearly pivot. I have an anticipated pivot for Monday to print around. Let me move this little GoToWebinar thing out of the way. We should be printing around 106.32. So looking for, fit between the spread and everything, about 15 to 18 pips. If we start falling lower today, maybe it's a 20 plus pip trade. I'm also going to look for that New Zealand CAD. I'm not going to rush into this trade quite yet, but if we get back down to this low today and we maybe make a fresh low, I'm going to look for one of those later in the day, maybe late morning, afternoon trades and get in, one little trade on New Zealand CAD. I'm opting for pairs that don't have, they have a likelihood of finding pivots. They have a likelihood of a little bit lower volatility. So I would much rather be, New Zealand CAD or Aussie New Zealand as opposed to maybe, Euro New Zealand, Pound New Zealand, even New Zealand US dollar. I don't want to have something, if we start seeing next week the dollar just get super strong, not saying that we're going to keep missing pivots on New Zealand US dollar, but there might be a little bit more volatility there where New Zealand CAD might be and should be a little bit tighter. So if we can push, to this news low and push a little bit lower, New Zealand CAD pivot for next week on Monday is going to be anticipated around 94.11. And it'll keep going with price, but if we can push down below 93.80, 93.70, we can get maybe 20 to 30 pips to trade back to. I will probably take a position, a small buy position or just a decent buy position on that third pivot alignment for the New Zealand CAD. So I am in at 50 on the Aussie New Zealand. I'm in for half a lot. I think I want to get in a little bit bigger. I put another trade up around 55, 106.55 if that gets hit. So I'll just keep it where it is for right now. 106.50 is my first sell, and I put another one at 106.55. I'm just going to kind of work that area for a couple trades and see if that's enough to help this, top out there around that yearly pivot and then drop about 15 to 20 plus pips to a third pivot. So it feels good. It's been a good week. I had close to $5,000 this week. So I say that, but it's also been a combination of 2.5 to 3 months in waiting. So that being said, it doesn't feel like a huge win. There was certainly missed opportunity on that Aussie New Zealand. Just at the levels that we were at, I don't know why I didn't think of it this way, but if I put in another $1 here, the worst case scenario would have been I draw down $300 extra. I mean, that is nothing compared to what I was paying attention to the overall net position and thinking, well, I don't want this thing to keep going against me. That was, I look at it now and I'm thinking that was silly. That was a $300 difference. And, obviously from 103 to 106.50, that's also a $300 difference that I could tack on to this, movement. So could have made it a bigger move. Didn't. It's fine. I still made some money on it. But still going to keep our eye on the prize with a bigger time frame and try to take this thing up to 107.50 and beyond. On a note, the daily chart, what I am liking is I know this analysis is insane, But we are finally, we have 2 days now above the daily 200 EMA. And you can see for a while now, this goes back to, May of last year. And we stayed. I mean, I know that we had a bit of a, this neckline was created. I mean, I still think that's the movement that we're going after here. But to have this 200 EMA holding, and then have this move back up and finally closing above, that's why I want to, briefly be in this trade, selling the Aussie New Zealand, but really start to turn right back around and look to build this position right back up and start to get, a couple dollars added in, a couple more dollars added in, but start going after that 107.50. And honestly, I hope we can break. I hope we can finally show this is the turning point for this pair, and we're going to go right through 107.50 through that neckline and just run, just rage with this Aussie New Zealand. So, the trade now is just very brief, 15, 20 pips at most, trying to make a few dollars, and then I'll get right back on the bullish movement, trying to rebuild this thing off of, 105.70, 105.50 levels, because that's where we had previous resistance. So we'll talk more about that on Monday during the watch list, but I'm still, long term, I'm very much liking the bullishness on Aussie New Zealand. And same thing is true on New Zealand CAD. We've waited time and time again for this trade to finally turn the corner. It's now starting to do so. Just with our pivot alignments, we're probably going to have a little bit of undulation. We'll have pivot. We'll probably find, Monday's pivot, but that's a good sign that any retracement could probably be sold into, and the trend is probably firmer to the downside. And I would think that New Zealand CAD can continue lower, Aussie New Zealand can continue higher. It's just going to be the timing of kind of lining up with a couple of those pivots, but it's a good sign that we've missed those two along the way, because that shows that this trend is starting to kick and is strong enough to let this thing fall. And you look at that daily chart again, and as Jared noted with the symmetry, I would say here's the high to low. I mean, that gets us into retesting 9,200. We have this 9,100 level that we watched, way back when. And, it's interesting that we have this symmetry that projects a move that could actually break this trend line. And, from this weekly chart or this daily chart, I mean, this big channel, if we break outside of here, there could be room for this thing to keep dropping. So again, I mean, it's all kind of dictated by the RBNZ, and are they not comfortable with the New Zealand dollar getting weaker? It sounded like on Wednesday that they loved it getting weaker, and we should love it too. We should love that we're going to have some movement, some trend opportunities, and let's take full advantage of it if we can. So that's really all I'm watching. New Zealand CAD, I think, line up really nicely for a couple of those shorter term trades. New Zealand CAD, Aussie New Zealand, just going after those third pivots for Monday. Pound New Zealand and Euro New Zealand, I want to keep a very close eye on these. Yesterday was a great short. We had 3 pivots in a row. We had a double top right there in the same hour, 74.60 or 74.70. Beautiful spot there, and sold off for 60, 70 pips. Ended up coming right back down to the third pivot. Good alignment there. Now, what I'm really watching for is this level. I mean, we may pull back, and I kind of hope that it pulls back a little bit deeper. But at the same time, I also want to see, are we just going to, maybe hold a little, that's not a straight line, hold a little bit of this channel and just see, is it breakout potential? Are we just kind of falling back in to just this one pivot, channeling around, but then the next move is right back into these highs? I think this is a spot that I'd circled yesterday. If we break above these highs, just keep looking for this, kind of pedal to the metal on some of these New Zealand crosses. It might be a little trickier to catch the volatility on the Pound New Zealand and Euro New Zealand, but if it's not very stubborn, well, I should say if it is stubbornly bullish, that would actually be a good thing, that we just have to look to kind of participate in this movement. So I don't want to get everybody, overexcited on the New Zealand dollar basket, but I think, Jared and I are in agreement that it's starting to finally look like we have turned a corner, and it hasn't looked this promising in a long time. I mean, the last time we looked this promising was at the start of the year, thinking, okay, well, the New Zealand US dollar broke out of that 2016 channel. Let's see if this thing can drop below 7,000. It got down to like 68.70 and then reversed right back up to that 7,000 level and then kept going up. So it was a little bit of a fake out, but here we go with finally some rhetoric, finally some central bank discussion, and it's neutral, but they love what's happening with the price, and so do we, because we're getting some good movement out of it. Let's see here. Anything on? So hopefully we took some pips on dollar Swiss. Yesterday I know that I got in at a pretty crappy entry around 1.0010. Had some pullbacks in here. Had about a 20 pip pullback, threw in another position, and then once I got back to break even on my first position, I was up a net 10 pips. I went ahead and just closed it out there at 10 pips. Although the monthly pivot wasn't that far away, I really just should have stayed in the trade, but whatever, I didn't feel like it. So, but it was finally a good movement, and the DXY showing, this may be setting up for either a very ugly head and shoulders that's now breaking the neckline, or possibly this high with today's run, that may be our neckline. So maybe a little bit of a pullback here, and then we start getting a run back up higher on the dollar pairs. We'll find out. But the big turn yesterday was really the dollar yen, right? I mean, the dollar yen, I can believe it, but pretty wild transformation from looking, back below 112, thinking we could drop to 110, and then fake out at 111.60. Big movement yesterday that we saw, during our session actually. Had a little pullback, ran 40 to 50 pips up to the weekly pivot, and we've continued up a little bit higher. So, I mean, dollar yen to me still looks pretty decent, and especially with yesterday's stock market. And I don't know if Trump is trying to take credit for this, but we have historic highs now, or new highs on NASDAQ, on SPY, on futures, and the Dow also at highs today. So I mean, we just opened. We're at new highs on every market for the U.S. All the major indices are at new historic highs. So possibly, I think that what I saw or read was some type of hint towards tax reform coming, pro-growth agenda getting rolled out, regulations, basically rolling back regulations. So all these kind of very pro-business, pro-growth things in the pipeline were coming out yesterday. I don't know if it's social media or official reports, but that's why the market got all excited. So we're at new highs, and when we typically see that, the JPY is not a strong currency pair. So I wouldn't be looking to force trades to sell anything for yen strength. I'd be looking to basically buy into yen weakness. So dollar yen to me probably looks pretty promising, back up to the upside. What do you think, Jared? Do you think is this a spot where we should be looking to kind of stay long on dollar yen if we can work in this area a little bit, maybe some retracements, but we have a monthly pivot, we can come up and tackle some of these previous highs. I mean, heck, we might even be able to rally enough to revisit some of those highs post-election. So
yeah, I think yen pairs are definitely making a bit of a move. I know, I've been watching some of the other yen pairs, and the dollar looks like it's ready for a bit of a push, and the dollar yen, there's some interesting stuff going on there. So yeah, I like that. Nice little clean setup would be a great trade. Happy to take that one.
Yeah. So just looking at the other yen pairs, I mean, we're right back here at these range highs for Aussie, New Zealand. CAD yen had honestly, you couldn't have asked for a better bounce here the last 2 days. In fact, did this give us 3 pivots in a row as well? No, just one. All right, but look, I mean, this trend line was already drawn. The channel was drawn from last year, and pretty solid turn on that CAD yen. I mean, this thing, it was really just a wedge break around 85.35 or 85.50, and here we are at 86 and change. So about 100 plus pips on that CAD yen. And a big turnaround overall. I mean, CAD Swiss, we saw a big bounce here. Low, higher low. Honestly, this week I was thinking, man, CAD Swiss is just gonna be a waiting game. And here we go, bam, that big bounce in recovery in oil, and then we had CAD news today, which helped this thing bump up a little bit. So I'm gonna stay the course on CAD Swiss. And where we got in here, we got in around 7,400. I had an entry at 74.99, took some profit off the table, got myself back into a couple trades. So I'm taking some trades off the table and keeping some positions on, but I'm just keeping smaller positions active just in case this thing is going to be subject to some additional rangy volatility, and maybe oil has a bad week next week. I don't know. It's really, it feels like it's emotional like that, where we can have highs and lows and just kind of high volatility ranges in oil, and that's going to affect the Canadian dollar. So anyway, but I'm trying to stay long in this pair for the bigger picture and get up towards 8,000 and hopefully much higher. We definitely need to see the stability kind of hold with oil because we also know that pillows can come in at any time and speak and kick the Canadian dollar all over the place. So I'm just a little bit on the protective side when it comes to the CAD. So that's really it for me. I think with those alignments, right now Aussie New Zealand's looking pretty good. That thing's hopefully going to drop 20 plus pips to the pivot for Monday. New Zealand CAD, if that one sets up for a chance to buy as low as possible, we'll see. I'm not going to really force that trade, but if we can get in a retest of these lows, or again, maybe it's later in the day where it comes back down to the lows and we have a pivot up here right around this past support, and we can get a very short-term trade going. But as it makes those retracements and it finds those pivots, just keep in mind that this is looking to be a sign of future trends. And Aussie New Zealand, I want to stay long on that one with retracement levels. New Zealand CAD, I think that one looks great to stay short on. So it all still looks good, and the picture is getting brighter and brighter on those few pairs. So another one just to throw out there, we had it run to the daily pivot today. Shoot. I was looking at this peso because we do have a finished move here from this initial high to low. We pulled back to the 38%. This thing has ran really nicely through this trend line, and we have a finished pattern right here at I'm sorry, down a little bit lower. Here is the finished Fibonacci extension at 19.99. I'm just calling that 20.0. So I would like to see. I know that we kind of bounced, off these lows today. I would like to see if this dollar peso can make one more fall towards 20.0, and what that would hopefully signify is taking out these lows, finding these pivots, and setting up what on a daily chart is going to look like this, like that, and taking out those major lows. Then we are looking for a retracement up into these missed pivots, and I think we can line that trade up for a few thousand pips. And then, then the question is this a follow-through pattern where it's a high to low, lower high to lower low? But I think if we score that point below, the right side of this trend line or at 20.0 or close to it, I'm going to start looking for some buy trades in here around 20.00 or maybe just off the yearly pivot. I mean, I might try to space this thing out by a couple of thousand pips and get in for 10, 20 cents a pip and just try to work this position, go after some of these pivot clusters. So we'll talk about that one more next week, but I do like that one. I think it's starting to give another good alignment, and we're close to fulfilling this 1618 Fibonacci extension off that 38%. So I think that matches up nicely. Also on the right side of the trend line, just kind of one more low, and then we get a bounce back up to some of those missed pivots. So I'll be watching the peso next week. Aussie New Zealand's CAD on my watch list. Dollar pairs, we'll probably dive into those much more heavily next week. There's a little fake out for you on dollar CAD, right? Yahtzee. So didn't really like dollar CAD anyway. But was that this week? Yeah, it was. Look at that. Right where we started this week. We started this week on Monday, super weak for the CAD, super strong for the dollar. We're right back where we started, more or less. Why does it do that sometimes? Funny. I mean, that is the definition of volatility. Up, down, there's opportunity, right? I mean, so it's a lot better than looking at this chart and seeing that, with no movement with a 20 to 30 pip range. I mean, it's nice to see that the thing went up 200 pips and now it's dropped 130 pips or 120 pips. Nobody's complaining. If you've got some volatility, you can make some pips. All right. So let me see here. Any comments? Let me see if I missed anything. Yep. So Craig's commenting on Trump and everything, making deals with CEOs. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. He can do and say whatever he wants, and we'll see how the market reacts. But they're liking it so far. So I would say the only one he's not making a deal with is Nordstrom, because they dropped his daughter's brand. That turned into a big stink. But anyway, I mean, the markets were yesterday. What's that?
Yeah, hard times in the retail space for the Trumps, for sure.
Yeah. Oh man. Third world problem.
Yeah, serious.
So yeah, but overall, very happy this week. I felt like I should have stepped on the Aussie New Zealand gas pedal a little bit more, but we saw the movement that was in our favor came off of two massive news announcements, and that's not always easy to just in the wake of the news, in the wake of this could be a another little fight and a bigger fight, or it's going to be cooperating. And so I mean, it cooperated, but it was a messy ride. I mean, look at what happened. We had so much data this week on the Aussie and the New Zealand dollar. I'm thrilled that the end result is us getting this move. I really am, because in truth, I mean, with data for New Zealand dollar, RBA statements for the Aussie, New Zealand dollar rate decision. I mean, this thing could have been doing absolutely nothing with all of the data this week, because nothing changed, right? Aussie cash rate didn't change. Aussie or New Zealand cash rate didn't change, but the rhetoric, the hints, the central bank, that was good. And honestly, I think we just played into the bigger technicals, and it was incredible how it decided to bounce there after just testing those lows. I mean, getting everybody scared. I mean, I had a lot of people texting me like, "Are you still in the Aussie New Zealand?" And I had people that were wanting to close out their positions, just say, "I'll just take the loss." I'm like, just give it a chance. I mean, you should have never been in big in the first place. I mean, I was upside down a couple $1,000s. I wasn't loving it, but I was willing to, give it a run to the yearly pivot. That was really my intention. So anyway, it's all good. Now we're happy. Now we're celebrating. I decided, rather than letting this thing fluctuate again and taking away some of those profits, I went ahead and closed out. Now I'm looking to rebuild. So it's, rebuilding in this area, low to higher low, looking for another higher low, trend line break. I mean, I'll start rebuilding again, going after 107.50 like we talked about yesterday, and just continue to make this thing pay me. It might not pay me all in one fall swoop like I kind of wanted it to, but if I can get, a few chunks and add it up to be a $10,000+ trade or whatever over the next 3 months or 6 months, then it'll be worth it. So anyway, looking good on that one. Couple short-term trades. What's that?
Should we run through a couple of charts? You want to hit some 1 minutes real quick, and I'll jump through some 5 minutes. We'll see if there's anything we can possibly trade before we call it a weekend and call it a day. And
yep, let's do it. So I'll do the one. So I'll do the 1 minute.
Yeah. Hit those 1 minutes up. I'll grab a 5 minute look at everything, and we'll see if there's anything we can get into. I feel like some of the New Zealand's have a little bit of 1 minute activity possibly lining up in the next few, next hour or so, but.
Aussie Swiss, and that probably means Euro Aussie. Keep an eye on Aussie Swiss, Euro Aussie. We'll check. Aussie Swiss is at 184. Euro Aussie is probably at the same, around 180 or so. 180.
Euro
yep.
Aussie's also 167 on the 5 minutes, so
okay.
It's getting down to 5 minute as well.
Okay.
Let's see here.
Let's see, Aussie New Zealand, no, Aussie dollar. That was a nice little, that's all, I was like, that's a big move. It's 14 pips.
Massive
move. CAD Swiss. Okay, CAD Swiss news-wise, 170. Okay, so we're 175. All right, CAD Swiss down. Yep, Euro Aussie, we have that one written down. Euro CAD. Okay, Euro CAD, CAD Swiss will be likely the same. It looks like structurally these ones are, CAD Swiss and Euro CAD are creating some nice kind of bottoms to watch for. So if we get the bar count and we can retest that low, that might be a good, kind of a good reversal coming into that 10 o'clock hour, 7 o'clock Pacific. And 10 o'clock Eastern. Euro New Zealand. 177. Okay. Well, it looks like we've got some options here. That's always a good thing.
I think it's going to be a shorter term morning potentially. Nothing really on the 5 minute except for those those ones, Euro Aussie and
Pound Aussie is at 215. 215 bars with about a 25 to 27 pip move back to the EMA. So we'll see if that one. Let's start watching, or as we kind of wrap things up. I mean, if we do push a little bit lower, start looking for those disagreements, start looking for double bottoms, and we should have about 20 to maybe even 30 pips to play with on pound Aussie. So that one's getting up there. Pound CAD. Holy shnikes, man! We got some choices. 188 on pound CAD. So most of these are around 170 to 180. The pound Aussie is my highest bar count right now at 215. And that one's pretty much at the EMA now for New Zealand CAD. Dollar CAD close. It technically didn't hit there. We're only 160 bars. I'd say we'll hold off on that one. Dollar Swiss 183. If we somehow get a double top out of that one, that might be okay. And that's about it. And then I'm getting to the exotic pairs. Okay, wow. So it looks like we have some battles to choose. I definitely wouldn't want to step in all these trades. It is pretty intense on the 1 minute charts to get in multiple trades. I mean, usually it's, kind of pick your poison. Pick the one that looks like it has the most distance. One that you've maybe traded in the past, or I mean, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pairs. I'll write them in right now. So we have Aussie, Swiss, Euro, Aussie. Those are pretty much inverse of one another. So I would say pick one of the two. Which one has the better spread? Which one has more distance to the EMAs? CAD, Swiss, and Euro CAD. Same thing there. They're inversely related. So pick one of the two and try to trade the one with the most distance. Euro New Zealand. Pound Aussie, 215. I'll just make a note of that since that's the highest bar count. The other ones are creeping up on 200. And pound CAD, dollar Swiss. Pound CAD, dollar Swiss. Needs double top. Okay, so we have some to really keep an eye on. Aussie Swiss, Euro Aussie, again, those are bunched together. So these two are going to be related in movement. CAD Swiss and Euro CAD, those will be related in movement. The other ones are going to be individual. Pound Aussie is our best bar count at the moment. If that one can push a little bit lower, give a little bit more distance, I like Pound Aussie a lot. Pound CAD as well. If we see some structural lows, double bottoms or some divergence levels, we can look at Pound CAD. And then dollar Swiss, maybe. Honestly, I would probably cross off dollar Swiss. Just because if we're getting enough movement that's favoring the dollar, I probably wouldn't look to force a trade on that one. So I'd say pound CAD, pound Aussie, Euro New Zealand look good, and then pick one or the two. Euro CAD probably has more volatility. Euro Aussie more volatility and more distance perhaps. So that'll keep us busy. All right, so let me let's take a quick peek. Aussie Swiss. So we have some good space here. Bar count is not high enough. I mean, we're only about 12 pips away. I mean, just with that distance alone and paying the spread, I would probably cancel on the Aussie Swiss. Euro Aussie, we have a little bit more room to play with here. Bar count is not yet high enough, but we're 187 bars. We start creeping, 200 plus, I'd say 220 to 250 if we can just kind of stay sideways. And then distance-wise, currently sitting around 19 pips. So we kind of want to see another low give us, 20 plus pips in distance, and then go after something on Euro Aussie. Euro CAD, if we can retest this news low, if we retest the news low or even make a fresh low, see if we get some distance between that and price. So currently bar count is 175. If we make a new low, or up above 200 bars, then hopefully we get some distance here. Because of the news, I mean, we do have some space right now. We're about 29 pips away from the EMA. So if we can retest that news low and extend to, maybe 30 plus pips, that would actually be a good one to consider. CAD Swiss, a little bit less volatility. Let's get just a quick bar count. It's probably 170. Yep, 180. Pip-wise, about 15 pips. So I would rather trade Euro CAD just because we have a little bit more distance to go after. Pound Aussie. Let's see if we can push a little bit lower. So our bar count, this is the highest bar count of the bunch, 221 bars. And let's see, distance-wise, back down to these lows, about 29 to 30 pips to the EMAs, so that's a good sign. If we can go another, 20 to 30 minutes and make some lows, we can get a trend line in here, start looking for, double bottom and a little trade back up on Pound Aussie. I would like that trade. So if I were doing the filtering myself, right now I'm liking EuroCAD and Pound Aussie. I know Pound CAD was another one. Similar setup as the EuroCAD. Maybe with the margin I would just trade one of the pound pairs, but looking to see if we can get a bounce off the news low. So we're at 192 bars. If we come down to the news low, we'd have, oh wow, we'd have 50 to 60 pips back to the EMA. Yes, please. That's pretty good. All right. And then dollar Swiss, I would say I canceled that one. So what do you guys think? Something to keep an eye on if you feel like trading today. If I'm looking to really get active, Pound CAD, Pound Aussie, Euro CAD, those all have bar counts that need to increase a little bit more. Pound Aussies are closest. Euro CAD and Pound CAD offer the most pips. Pound CAD is potentially 50 plus pips, so which would be, I mean, by the time we get in the trade and work to it, it might be half of that. It might be 25 pips, 30 pips, but that's still pretty good. EuroCAD, same thing. If we can get 15 or 20 pips out of the move with what we have available, that would not be bad. So I think those are worth watching on the 1 minute chart. Anything on the 5 minute chart, Jared?
No, maybe in the next hour and a half we might get a couple of numbers, but nothing was really too exciting on the 5 minute.
Okay.
But I think it's all 1 minute for the morning potentially.
Okay, look at this. I just saw Paul's question. He says, hey, I've been long Aussie Swiss for a while. Now that it's broken 76.40, what's the target? You see this box that I have drawn on here, Paul? This low to high swing, higher low to higher high. Long-term target I see is 77.60. I mean, this is a great day, actually, for the Aussie Swiss. I thought this thing was, symmetry is a huge level, and it's awesome that this has been carry trade. All those has been just a huge pile of nasty range. It still worked out to be favoring Aussie Swiss. So that's, this level, I could see this being a turning point, even if it's in the shorter term, 77.60 to 77, well, we'll just call it 50 to 70. You have about a 25 pip range here, expecting symmetry to create a little bit of a reaction. So there will probably be some pretty heavy profit taking there. I think that would be nice to see how that coincides with the Aussie Swiss if it hits symmetry, and if we get a move back down, how that would coincide with the Euro Aussie finding some type of low. So as Jared looked at the bigger time frames, and we have 3,800, 3,750. If you look left on those weekly charts on the Euro Aussie, there's some pretty major support levels down there. So I think that could actually line up pretty nicely for a couple of pivots to go back to on Euro Aussie, a couple of pivots to go back to on Aussie Swiss. But big day on the Aussie Swiss today. So and is our Euro Aussie still pushing a little bit? Yeah. So I mean that's a big extra push, and here we are down at these levels I just talked about. So 30, here's 37.50, 37.40, all in this territory. So if that comes into those levels, and let me check one thing. High to low, lower high to lower low. So we're there. We according to these wicks and stuff, we've hit symmetry, but if we drift down to support, that'd be a spot. Now also, I looked at this one this morning on my phone, and Jared, what do you think about this? This is a monthly chart. Now, this is the lowest that the Euro Aussie's ever been, but is it possible here that we could have a Head and Shoulders, something like that.
Definitely possible. Definitely possible. I feel like my expertise is in drawing Head and Shoulders patterns that are like still a ways. I'm always projecting a Head and Shoulders pattern on
Yeah.
something, so you know I'm a good crowd for that.
Well,
So yeah, that looks like that looks like a good little possibility there.
yeah.
That support could be a pretty fantastic neckline. So
I think so
yeah, I
too.
think there's
And so what I'm the reason I'm thinking about that is because if this is going to be the neckline and we're going to create a right shoulder, I mean honestly for what we'll see over the next several weeks or maybe even the next couple of months, I mean we might see this level strike 3800 to 3750, and we start noticing falling wedges, consolidation, and then we get a big squeeze back up. And and we have looked at that wedge for quite a while. We've looked at the wedge on the Euro New Zealand for quite a while. So I think it'll be worth watching to see what plays out. But I do think that we can get, I think we can get a really good trade up here. And then if it is a right shoulder, great, we can revisit the trade. But if it's just, coming back down to major support off of historic lows, we go from low to high, ranging, and then we, go back up again. I don't care as long as we're buying low. So, but I saw this on the monthly and I thought, is that what this thing's doing? Is this just trying to create a neckline or get some, get some interest back in here before we start going back up? So anyway, I just think we've got some alignments coming on, Aussie Swiss, and Paul, that's awesome you pointed that out because it's approaching, right? That symmetry level is not that far away. This major support on Euro Aussie is not that far away. So I'd like to get something lined up and we have pivots. We have this week's pivot was missed. Next week's pivot's going to be an open target, hopefully. So if we can push down a little bit lower and get a couple of pivots lined up, we can start looking for falling wedges, some ranges, and then start getting some squeezes back up, and hopefully line this bad boy up for a few hundred pips. So looks good to me.
okay. Looks good. Okay. So let's keep our eyes open, eyes and ears open, and see how. Obviously, those are some great looking trades, and coming in the next open of the market next week. We'll keep our eye on the 1 minutes, and we'll post any entries for our lovely group members here. So let's plan on that.
Yeah, and did Joe, did you come in late by chance to the Aussie New Zealand? Did you come in late? I mean, I spent some time on it this morning. I closed out everything last night at 106.37. So I put in a short at the yearly pivot, which is 106.50. So I'm in short, just sitting a couple pips positive. But that's just going after 3 pivots. We have Aussie New Zealand. A third pivot will print for Monday. New Zealand CAD, I'm looking to get a short-term buy for a pivot for Monday. That one might not be a chance to take that trade, but Aussie New Zealand, the pivot is estimated to be around 106.30. So just going after 15 to 20 pips on that one. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yep, so I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing any discussion since I did spend some time on Aussie New Zealand. Because, again, longer term, I want to be buying Aussie New Zealand, but with those pivot alignments, I'm just taking a brief short for 10, 15, 20 pips if I can, and then I'll start looking to get back in smaller and rebuild the Aussie New Zealand back up for the bigger Head and Shoulders and what we've been after the whole time. All right, that's all I have, Jared, for today.
Yep, good stuff. Okay, so we'll just keep an eye on those short-term trades. Being Friday and markets starting to wind down, we'll see if we can grab some short-term activity, and then we'll be back Monday morning for another start of the week. But we'll definitely be keeping an eye on these short-term trades, and we'll post anything. We'll post some specific entries for you guys so everybody can participate, since it's kind of outside of our live session. So we'll post those specifics for everyone so you can participate in a few more pips, hopefully before the week is over. So stay close to Telegram, and we'll keep you guys updated there. Otherwise, good stuff. Congrats to everybody that rode out that Aussie New Zealand and made some bucks on that thing. And congrats to everyone that had a decent week trading in general. So good stuff, everybody. Always happy to hear about gains and profits and pips. Those are very good words in the trading business. So it sounds like we had some of that this week, which is awesome. So congrats, everyone. Good work, Chris. Glad the Aussie New Zealand played out nicely. And see if we can grab a few more pips before it's all over.
Yep. That's awesome.
Good stuff, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Have a great weekend.
Yep, great weekend, guys. Take care.